or something. So today let us again start with a new problem. Um, so the in day-to-day lives we come across lot of dependency problems, right? We want there are a lot of activities we have to do in a certain way, in a certain order, so for it to be completed. Right, and that sort of gives us lot of dependencies that are where one task had to be done before the other and things like that. Right, so let us take an example of the courses you study. Okay, so these are some of the courses. I have not sort of listed everything you study, right? These are some of the courses you study, and they have a lot of dependencies, right? Or what we call as prerequisites, right? Many courses have prerequisites, whatever, some prerequisite which you need to know before you come to the course and things like that. So to capture these prerequisites, we come up with sort of a model it as a graph, right? Where the nodes are the courses and there is a sort of a direct edge, right? When one course is a prerequisite for another, right? These sort of dependency graphs are also very much, they very much arise in your courses like operating systems and maybe even in yeah, maybe in databases or computer architecture, right? Dependencies, wherever there is this dependencies, you can talk about these graphs called dependency graphs and things like that, right? So this is just again a problem which you can sort of model as graphs. So let us look at your courses and let us try to see, right? So suppose what are the dependencies when you are sort of designing a course curriculum, when you are designing a curriculum, right? So you need to know these things, right? So what courses need to be taught before and what should be taught, what can be taught later, right? What are the prerequisites required for a particular course and things like that. Right? So to do that, so we, yeah, sort of you can list down all the courses and then you sort of draw dependency, right? So yeah, DSA, there is data structures and algorithms. So for that we can say that, yeah, there is, we would like C programming or any programming concepts, right? So here I have written C programming, probably that is the language which you learn in your first year, right? Or other words, any programming language for that matter, right? It doesn't have to be C, right? So this is a prerequisite. So we draw an arrow here saying that this sort of people should know this before they come to data structures and algorithms, right? And yeah, before coming to say algorithms course, design and analysis of algorithms, probably it is better to know, yeah, data structures and algorithms, and maybe a bit of you need to know C programming and things like that, right? So before you learn compiler design, understanding about automatons and grammars would help. So we would say from TOC is a prerequisite for compiler design, right? Um, yeah, DDS, yeah, it might not require any prerequisite of this kind, right? Maybe COA, there is a slight prerequisite for once you know this about circuits, it would help, right? Otherwise, also you could do, that's still okay, right? And maybe, yeah, it is better to know, say, a bit of discrete maths about proofs before you study TOC and maybe before you study algorithms, right? And programming data structures and algorithms might, yeah, it would be better once if you want to sort of code something, right, or design something with respect to a design and operating system. You know, it's better to know a bit of data structures and maybe again C programming, something like this, right? For once before you know networks, maybe again, if it involves a bit of coding, you need different prerequisites. For databases also, you might require something more, right? So these are some of the things. You sort of come up with a dependency graph. You come up with prerequisites. Then what you do is basically you arrange them such in an way such that prerequisites always come before the actual courses, right? You sort of arrange them, you sort of get a order, right? Or what we call a linear order, right? So an ordering is linear if every pair of elements are sort of comparable. If anything is a prerequisite, it comes before, right? So here that is what we would like to do, right? So we would want to order these courses in a linear way so that we know when to sort of schedule these courses, in what semester you want to schedule these courses and so on and so forth. That helps us in the design of the curriculum. So here, yeah, is there some course which does not have any prerequisite?
DMS, C programming.
Yeah. C programming doesn't have any prerequisite. DMS doesn't have any prerequisite. Maybe DDS does not have any prerequisite, right?
DB also.
So, come again? DB. Yeah, DB. You would say that actually I didn't draw everything. So you might require some bit of programming, even some data structure. Would be better once if you start learning B trees and things like that, right? So some of it might help there. Okay. So yeah. So when you there are I have not drawn all the edges, right? I have drawn some of them, right? But when you are designing a curriculum, you will try to go through all the sort of dependencies and things like that. So yeah, initially, suppose you are in the curriculum committee. So what you would like to do is to sort of order this, right? So how do you order it? So first you will always order, just as you guys said. First you will order those courses which do not have any prerequisites, right? So that could be something like, yeah. So C programming doesn't have any prerequisite, right? DDS does not have any prerequisite. DMS, discrete mathematical structures, does not have any prerequisites, right? So you will order them first, but you want them in a linear order. You can put these things in any order you want, right? So what you do is maybe first you give, yeah, I will just sort of order it. You sort of give, say, order this first. Maybe you order this second, you order DMS third, right? So these don't require any prerequisites, right? So then once these prerequisites are done, then what else can you sort of study later? Assuming that these prerequisites are done, right? Then you could yeah, what would come next?
Any of its children.
Any of
no,
its children.
Not any.
So is there a child parent relationship here? Are there cycles?
Yeah, if there are cycles, then it's impossible to.
Yeah, there are sort of undirected cycles, definitely. Yeah, but yeah, so someone said something correct, right? So suppose there are directed cycles, it is impossible to order, right? So the foremost requirement, right, for any sort of committee to see is to it that there is no cyclical dependency, right? So even when you do schedule sort of processes to the processors, right? Jobs to processors, or when some job is done in an operating system, you want that there are no circular dependencies, right? So if there is a directed cycle, the whole exercise goes waste. There is no way of ordering the prerequisites correctly. So that is the first thing to sort of ensure that there are no circular dependencies, right? So that is what we want. So no circular dependencies, right? Good. There are no circular dependencies. So let us come back to our here. I don't think there are any circular dependencies. Yeah. Suppose, yeah, we said that seek programming and design of digital systems and discrete mathematical structures don't require any prerequisite. You could order them in any way you want. If you don't like this ordering, you sort of change it, right? So yeah, once sort of these prerequisites are done, so which says that these courses can be scheduled at any point of time, right? Right in the first semester or second semester, third semester, wherever you want, you can put them, right? So they don't require any prerequisite. So okay, now next, if I want to sort of schedule the course, say, um, so can I schedule the course compiler design after these things?
No, sir.
Why?
Because TOC is a prerequisite.
Yeah, TOC is a prerequisite for compiler design, right? So I would want to finish theory of computation, right? I want the students to know, right? Would like the students to know about grammars and automata before they come to sort of designing compilers, right? So definitely TOC should be done before compiler design. So you can't put this as 4, right? Now can I put TOC as 4? So now I have ordered like C programming is here. Then next is say DDS. Next is DMS, right? So next, can I yeah, put TOC? What is
Yes,
the
sir.
prerequisite? Yeah,
Only
the,
DMS, sir.
yeah, only DMS is the prerequisite, right? So you can always put TOC, right? Maybe you can even say C programming can be a prerequisite, right? For people to know something, right? So you can always put TOC. You can give this as number 4, right? So then what do I do after this?
The DSA or computer design.
Yeah, you can even put DSA because this is the prerequisite that is done. So you can give this as 5, right? Then yeah, compiler design, does it have any other prerequisite? Do you need to know algorithms, a bit of programming? Anyway, definitely C programming. It is better to know C programming. Also, it would be better to know some bit of algorithms, right? Yeah, how do you sort of do it, and some bit of yeah, once you are doing machine, then yeah, machine level coding and all, it's also better to know architecture. It is very much uh, required, right?
Then
So
DA,
yeah,
DSA.
DAA or this one, right? COA, right? Computer organization and architecture, right? So DAA could come, right? So yeah, even yeah, then you even after these things I could even put yeah, these things, right? Anything now for OS, all the prerequisites are finished, right? So I can put OS, any databases I can put anytime, right? Compiler design I can put anytime. So I can draw many more subjects, and I could drop these things, and yeah, I could sort of come up with an ordering, right? Such that these could be scheduled in some of this scheduled in a manner such that the prerequisites are satisfied. So that is how your course is also, I mean, when we were designing the your curriculum, this was also one of the exercises that happened, right? So that is why you see there are, yeah, people discussed, the committee discussed, the experts who are outside, they discussed, and sort of, yeah, we could teach C programming, DDS, and discrete mathematical structures in your first year, right? Without knowing anything, right? What you are taught now is C programming and discrete mathematical structures, right? So DDS came to second year because we could only teach two of these things, right? Something like that. So DDS could very well have been taught in first year, right? Since didn't have any other prerequisite, right? So that is one thing. So these are the things that go in. Next, yeah, it is not so surprising that you were taught in your third sem DDS, TOC, and data structures and algorithms, right? So that was taught, and after this finished, then in your fourth sem you get design and analysis of algorithms, computer organization and architecture, operating systems, database, right? When you go to fifth sem, you will get compiler design, right? So it is done in this order, right? Okay, so again, we ensure that there are no circular dependencies. So Notice that this could be looked at as the problem can be, suppose you are given a lot of dependencies like that. Now, how do you come up with an ordering, right? So the question is, suppose it might be just about courses, or it might be assembling a machine, right? In the assembly, suppose you are assembling a train or even a car, right? Suppose you are assembling a car, right? Well, how do you sort of go on doing it, right? It shouldn't be the case that you put all the doors and then you will try to fix the seats, right? That would not work out, right? So something like that. There is a way you need to follow, right? When you are assembling these things, that again is a dependency graph. Once the dependency graph is given to you, now can you efficiently come up with an ordering, right? Such that all the dependencies are satisfied. Okay. So that is what that is the question, right? Suppose someone comes up gives you this graph, then can you sort of look at this graph and come up with an ordering, right? Very efficiently, right? When we say efficiently, in as fast a time as possible. So now we have looked at the motivation and a problem. Now let us forget about it, and now we know that we can sort of formalize it, right? You can model it as a graph, right? Forget about what these individual nodes are, how they are called. So, right? So they are just nodes for us, right? We have seen such modelings before also, right? So these are nodes for us. These are nodes in the graph, and you have edges, and it's a directed graph, right? Now it's a directed graph. Now we said that there should be no circular dependencies. What does this amount to in a directed graph?
Cycles.
There is
Cycle.
no backdates.
Yeah, what cycles?
Directed cycle.
Directed cycles.
Directed cycles. It's not just cycles, right? I mean, there can be underlying undirected cycles that are possible, right? But there should be no directed cycles, right? So this would amount to no, this is equivalent to no directed cycles, right? So the graph should be should not have any directed cycles, right? So such graphs are basically, the graph is acyclic, right? It is directed and acyclic, right? These graphs are called directed acyclic graphs. It is directed acyclic graphs. Okay. So notice that if you forget the directions, if you somehow take away all the directions, the graph could, the underlying undirected graph can still have cycles. Okay. Now, yeah, actually we have seen undirected acyclic graphs, right? What are undirected acyclic graphs? What do we call them?
Trees.
Were they trees?
Forests.
Forests, right? So trees were connected acyclic graphs, right? So forests were acyclic graphs. These are in terms, yeah, sort of what we don't call them directed forests, right? That would be confusing. Suppose you give orientation to a forest, then what do you call it? So that's why these are called as indirected graphs. They are called as directed acyclic graphs. Okay. So for us, when we are talking about the problem, so the input is a directed acyclic graph. Okay. So you are sort of given a directed acyclic graph. Now, what does the problem become? So you need to basically order the vertices of the graph. Okay. You need to order the vertices of the graph. How do you need to, what is the property that should be followed? What will be the first vertex in the graph that will be ordered in the order?
Like something that doesn't have a edge coming into it.
Yeah. So here basically the prerequisite is an integrity into a vertex, right? So something that does not have any edge coming into it.
Degree.
Okay. Yeah. So here prerequisite with respect to this modeling, prerequisite is equivalent to, right, incoming edge. Right. So what you will order first is something that does not have any incoming edge.
Sir, your screen and voice is frozen.
Yes, sir. We can't hear you.
Hello guys. So I'm
Sir, we can't hear you now.
can't hear me.
Now
Now,
we can.
now it's free properly.
Now it's okay. Okay guys. So I think something happened with the network. I don't know what happened. Still it has. The quality is poor. Hopefully it will improve. So now am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so I don't know where I lost you guys. So what was I telling?
It was about the inverter in decreasing.
Okay, we are talking about integrity, right? So DMS, DDS, and C programming add in degree 0. We could order them first, right? So basically, we initially put those vertices with in degree 0, right? So in other words, suppose we get an ordering, right? So we have an ordering of these vertices, something like V1, V2, V3, so on and so forth. Now, how do the edges look? So these are directed edges, right?
Yes, sir. They're all from left to right.
So they're all, notice that these had in degree 0, but the out degree can be anything, right? So they are all, the edges from these things are all going from left to right, right? So here some other vertex V4 comes, if it is something like DSA, right? It add an in degree here like this, but still whatever it is going out from it will always go to the right side of it. Okay. So whatever the ordering we get here, right, is very special in the sense that all the edges are going from left to right, or some what we call as forward edges. All are forward edges, right? So all are going forward, right? Nothing is coming back, right? So this is sort of a special ordering of these vertices. Okay. So the special ordering of vertices where this sort of left and right or forward or backward, right? So comes into picture, right? So such sorting of vertices, right, is called as topological sort. This is again a sorting of vertices, right? This kind of sorting where all the edges go from left to right is called a topological sort. Okay. Notice that it is very important that the graph is directed acyclic graph. right, to get a topological sort. Okay, so this is defined only in a directed acyclic graph. So it's a topological sort of a directed acyclic graph, DAG. Okay, so is that fine? Is the definition clear?
Sir, so any graph which looks,
Yeah, come again. So yeah, you
What
said
is the
something.
prerequisite? What that prerequisite implies incoming edge, sir?
Yeah. So yeah, with respect to our model, sorry, prerequisite was, suppose some course had a prerequisite, right? Then there would be a edge coming into it from some other vertex, right?
But sir, like the degree won't be 0, right?
Yeah, indeed. No, no, no. This is in degree won't be 0. Is in degree was 0 for the first vertex. This was for first vertex. First vertex in ordering. I mean, that was for the question. I asked the question, which vertex do you put as the first vertex in the ordering, right? So the natural answer was any vertex with in degree 0.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So Alan, you had some question.
so I was just clarifying on the topological, what do you call that?
Topological sort. You have seen different sorts, right? Sorts and numbers, right? This is a sorting on the vertices of the graph, and we call it as topological sort. Why topology? I mean, because it is from left to right. All edges are sort of oriented in one direction, right? So there is some topology associated with it, some geometry associated with it, right? So you say that it is called as topology. I don't know the etymology of the word, right? Maybe this is the reason, right? So all edges are going from left to right, right? This kind of an ordering, if it exists, it need not exist in a graph. If it has directed, it will not exist in a graph which has directed cycles. But suppose the graph is a directed acyclic graph, right? Then what we are saying is that then if we order the vertices in this manner, right, then it is called a topological sort. So is that fine?
So initially our vertices will look like how you have shown the dependency graph. So you're telling after we sort it after we order it, it looks something like the V1, V2, V3 you showed on the top. So is that called the topological sort?
Yeah, the edges look that way. The importance is edges. Edges will always go from left to right, right? There is no edge like this, right? There is no edge, backward edge like this. This is not allowed. Okay. Every edge should be a forward edge. Okay. See, the thing is, this was a 2D drawing of the graph, right? Here, assume that we are drawing it in a single line, right? Putting all the vertices on a single line, right? We also want all the edges to go from left to right, right? So now, can we order the graph in that manner? Okay. So this is, if we can order it, it is called as a topological sort, right? So the first thing to sort of see is that if the graph has directed cycles, then you can never order this way, right? No topological sort is possible. So even the precondition for such a sorting to happen is that the graph should be an acyclic graph, right? It's a directed acyclic graph, what we call as a DAG, right? So now suppose you are given a DAG. So let us try to understand what these DAGs are. So suppose you are given a directed acyclic graph. Can you say anything about the number of edges in such a graph? What is the, can we say anything about the minimum number of edges in such a graph?
It can be 0, right?
It can be 0, right? There is nothing that stops the number of edges being 0. Good. Is there some bound on the maximum number of edges in such a graph? So in undirected acyclic graphs, what is the maximum number of edges possible? Undirected.
N minus 1.
N minus.
N minus
N
1.
minus
Yeah, that's a tree, right? Tree is the maximum. So when the forest itself has only one tree, right? Only then the edges are maximized. It is N minus 1. Suppose you are given a directed acyclic graph, then what do you think is the maximum number of edges possible?
N into N minus 1 by 2.
So N choose 2.
Yes, sir.
N
Yes, sir.
choose
Why?
two.
Why?
Oh,
Why
like-
N choose 2?
Every pair will have an edge, but it's a directed edge, like in such a way that, like if it's V1, V2, V3, Vn, V1 will have neighbors from V2 to Vn, and V2 will have neighbors from V3 to Vn. so
Out
on.
neighbors.
Out neighbors, yes.
Out neighbors, right? Because for V2, V1 was also a neighbor, but it was an in neighbor, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah. So Chaitanya says that you can have n choose 2 edges. He is also giving the graph. What he is saying is order the vertices V1 to Vn, right? V1 will have out edges, right? Out as out neighbors V2 to Vn, right? So something like if this is V1, V2, V3, V4, V5. So I don't want to draw too many. Something like this. This will have adjust to all this. V2 will have adjust to V3, V4, V5. V3 will have to V4, V5. V4 will have to V5. Something like this, right? So notice that you can still have n choose 2 edges, right? So can we have more than that? So we saw that it is at least that, right? This is an example which says that we can have, there exists a graph which contains n choose 2 edges. Okay. So is it, yeah, can we have more than that? More than n choose 2?
No, sir.
If we have more edges, then we would have to add them from right to left, because all edges from left to right have already been filled out. So that would not.
Oh, you can't
that
add
will be
any more
backwards.
edge here, right? So as long as, yeah, we are assuming that there is only one edge. That's the assumption. There is only one edge between any ordered pair, right? There is only one edge between any ordered pair. You can't add any more. All slots are filled, right? For every Vi, Vj, right? For I, yeah, less than j, there is an edge, right? So all slots are filled. Any edge if you add, it should only be a back edge, right? So it is not possible, right? So in the edges, the number of edges is bounded by n choose 2, right? So it is almost m is less than n choose 2, where m is the number of directed edges in an directed acyclic graph. Okay. Yeah, good. That's nice. So we will look at DAGs a lot, right? If not, we will look at it today and we will look at it later in many other problems. And this becomes a very important construct when we sort of do dynamic programming. So we will see that every this dependency, right, is defined quite a bit with respect to dynamic programming, right? And yeah, this becomes very handy. Okay, good. So now let us come back to our problem. So this is a bit about DAX. So what the problem now is, I am not so much worried about the application of this thing now. So the way we are modeled now is that we are given a DAG, right? So this is topological sort of DAG. Right? So what you are given is a DAG, you are given as input a DAG, right? And so we want to basically topologically sort it. Okay. So suppose you are given a DAG with the vertices and arcs, right? Nodes and arcs. So you want to sort of sort it such that all the edges are going from left to right. Okay, so good. So is there a way of doing it? How do we do this? Any suggestions? So before that, 1 minute. Before that, did everyone understand the problem?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully, yeah. If you have any doubts with respect to the problem, the setting of the problem, please let me know. You can't think about the problem without knowing what the problem is, right? So just to reiterate, the input is a directed graph. Not only just a directed graph, it is a directed acyclic graph. Okay, and now you want to sort the vertices of the graph such that once you are putting all these sorted vertices in the straight line, right? All the edges should go from a lower indexed vertex to a higher indexed vertex, right? The index with respect to the ordering, right? So it should always go from a smaller indexed vertex to a bigger indexed vertex with respect to the ordering. Or if you are sort of ordering all the vertices on a real line, right? All edges should go from left to right. Okay, good. So is the problem setting clear?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Once
Yes.
that is fine. Now yeah. Now we can brainstorm the ideas. Yeah. Anirudh, you are telling something.
So we want the ordering such that every vertex V is before all of its descendants or all of its children, right? Can we think of it like
What
that?
do you mean by children?
Uh, uh, I would say there is a
Before
parent,
Nephilus.
since there are no cycles, there's always a parent-child relation between any two vertex, right? Not parent-child, but ancestor-descendant relation.
What is see? We knew something. Say, what do you call as an ancestor?
When you root a vertex.
Yeah. See, the thing is, there is a bit of a. It is not like a tree, right? This is different from a tree. There can be many ancestors, right?
So yeah, we can assume if there's a
There
path
was a single
from
parent, right? Always there was always a single parent. Here it is not the case, right? So yeah, what do you mean by yeah? Once we sort of define whatever you
I
want,
have a
then we
doubt.
can. Yeah, please.
Can there be can there be multiple choices of ordering such that it's topologically sorted? Like, can the positions differ in the sorted node?
Yeah,
Yes.
so, yeah, right. Oh, that's a good question. What Alan asked. Can there be for the same graph? Can there be multiple orderings?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right.
So
Even
that is possible if
yeah.
we
Sir,
have two roots
in the
or more,
previous
right?
example only we had three courses which didn't have any in edge. So anyone can come first.
Anything could have come first, right? That was the thing, right? In your very first sem, you could have add DMS or DDS or C programming, anything, right? So they didn't have any. So there are multiple sort of orderings. That also comes throws up a nice question. What is the maximum number of orderings possible?
So n factorial, like no one is dependent on other.
N
Everyone.
factorial. Yeah. If the number of orderings are n factorial, how will the graph look?
No,
Everything
no
will be
edge,
single
sir.
point.
just no edges in the graph.
Only
No
vertices.
edges. No edges. Right? The graph will not have any edges. Right? Good. Nice. So yeah. So that's fine. So what? Yeah, Anirudh, you were defining something. I mean, what do you mean by child and what do you mean
I
by?
get I guess reachability would be a better word. So from a vertex, we want to add it to the list before all of the vertices which are reachable from that particular vertex.
Okay. So you want suppose you are preparing a list, you would want to add, right? No, that vertex to the list before any of its vertex which are reachable from it are added, right?
Yes, sir.
So
So
yeah, how do we
what we
do that?
can, so when we do a DFS, we are actually exploring all vertices which are reachable from the current vertex, right? So what we can do is we can have a DFS from a particular vertex, and after we're done exploring all of its all of the vertices which are reachable from it, we can append it to a list. And finally, the list that we get will actually be the reverse order of the topological sort.
How do you do the DFS? Okay, we start from where do you start from? We can start from any vertex.
We can start from any vertex, since we're actually getting the reverse order of the topological sort here, not getting the basically what we're doing is, after we explore all the children of a particular vertex.
No, but what are you doing? So does the directed acyclic graph, does it look like a, what is the relationship with the DFS? DFS, you please come again. Tell me DFS. What are you doing with DFS?
Yeah. So I have a list, say order, and I have a DFS, same as before, and there's an explore function. So like how we had in the beginning of every explore function, we mark visited equal to true. Instead of in the beginning, what I'll do here is at the end of the DFS, after we're done exploring all of its children or all of the other vertices, I will append it to the list. So
okay, we were capturing that. Okay, what you are doing is you create a list. So once the vertex sort of finishes, you will put it to the list, is it?
Yeah, we want to add it to the beginning of the list every time, but since that's not a very efficient way of doing it, we could add it to the end of the list and later reverse the entire list.
Suppose
so we can use a stack instead of that.
See, Anirudh, like maybe.
Okay, you can put it in a stack. Okay, that is.
So, but like in this case, maybe two vertices are pointing at the same vertex. So in the DFS, that like suppose V1, V2, and V3, V4 are four vertices. V1 is pointing towards V4, and even V2 is also pointing towards V4. So, sir, in the DFS, like first V4 will get pushed, and then V1 will get pushed, and then another DFS will run from V2. So V2 is after, like.
Yes, sir. Then V2 will get pushed. That's why we're getting the reverse order of the topological sort. So
then it will be like this.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because our basic idea is we want to add a particular vertex.
I mean, what is the basic idea? Yeah.
When we want to add a particular vertex to the beginning, no, we want to add it to the topological sort before all of its children are not children, but before. Okay, I'll define children as any vertex which is reachable from the current vertex.
Okay.
So we want to add it to the list before all of its children have been visited. So what we are doing here is we're actually exploring all the children first, and we know that for all of its children, they would have already been added to the list. I don't know if I'm telling it clearly.
So I guess like you could say that we want to put the vertex that is whose finishing time is like last at the start. So basically, like children will have lesser finishing time. So we can think of it as like that.
Yeah, to understand the problem, one is DFS. Since you guys know DFS, we are trying to sort of look at it. Yeah, can we do this even without using DFS? Suppose someone gives you a graph, how do you do it?
Yes, sir.
So we can keep a count of in neighbors of a vertex and keep reducing when we get, like if we are exploring vertex V1, like we can basically keep a count of in neighbors, and the vertex which we are putting in the list, its in neighbors should be 0. Like all its in neighbors should be already in the list.
Oh, all its in neighbors should be already in the list. Is that fine? All in neighbors. Are already in the list. Is this true? So what happens if one of the in neighbor is not in the list? Then it will come later, right? Then there would be a back edge, right? So suppose there is a vertex, we put this vertex Vi, it has an in neighbor which is not yet in the list, and we put this in the list. So that in neighbor Vj would come somewhere later here, then there would be an edge like this, which is a back edge, right? This would be a back edge, which we do not want, right? Such a thing we do not want. So what Rajat says is that, so you make sure that none of the, all the in neighbors of a particular vertex are already there in the list before you put it. Okay, good. That is a nice thing. How do you sort of ensure this? Yeah. Someone said something.
So we can I can just think of a brute force method where you
Yeah, tell that.
you have all the you already have all the in neighbors in a list for each of the vertex, each of the vertices, and then you start with any of the vertex, and then you just put it to a order or array or something, and then you take the next one, and then you traverse the array and see search for a point until which after that point there is no more of that in neighbors in that list. So we can just insert it at that point and then go with the next vertex. So after we keep inserting all the vertices into that array, we'll get an order.
Oh,
So
you're sort of doing an insertion sort, is it? Sort of.
Yeah, we are inserting it at the correct position wherever it fits.
Oh, okay.
Sir?
Yeah. Yes, Aditya.
This problem also looks like BFS with one extra condition that before marking any vertex as visited, we check if its immediate parents are visited also or not. Then we could just do a breadth first search normally with that one extra condition.
Oh, okay. All its parents. How do you check that? How do you check if all the parents are visited? All the ancestors are visited?
Because we have the visited array where we mark every vertex as visited as true. So before marking a current vertex as visited, we check if all the vertices from which there are in edges to this particular vertex, if those are visited.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that is again a nice thing. So suppose we have a topological ordering, say something. We say VI1, VI2, VI3, VIK, VIL, VIN. Right? Now, what can you say about the vertex VI1, in degree of the vertex VI1?
It's
zero.
In degree will be 0, right?
Its in degree will be, the in degree of this vertex will be definitely 0, right? Okay. What can you say about the in degree of the vertex VI2?
At most 1.
At most 1, right? Okay. So its in degree is at most 1. What about in degree of VI3?
At most 2.
At most 2, right? So on and so forth, right? Now, instead of doing this, what we will sort of do is to sort of compute in degrees only to the right side of it. Okay. So when we are computing in degrees for any vertex V, here, we will only compute in degrees in the graph induced by that vertex and later. Right? Suppose what is the vertex, what is the in degree of this particular vertex? First vertex in the graph induced by this vertex and all the vertices towards the right?
0.
0, right? So in degree in, say, the graph G induced on vertices, say, say if that vertex is some Vij, then it is Vij, Vij plus 1, Vij plus 2, right? So on and so forth, right? Till Vin, right? This is the in degree in the graph induced by the particular vertex and all the other vertices to the right side, right? So the first vertex will still have in degree 0. What about the second vertex?
0.
Yeah. So the second vertex, if you take the graph induced by this Vi2, right, and all the vertices towards the right, there is no edge coming into the vertex Vi2 from any of these vertices. Here also the in degree is 0, right? What about Vi3? Again, is it 0?
Everything will be 0.
Right? Everything is 0, right? This is a nice property that is true for this topological sort, right? So for suppose you take this vertex and you remove it, right? You take the vertex in the resulting graph, the integrity of vi2 is 0, right? If you remove these two vertices, right, for any vertex, right, any vertex at some index I, right, in the ordering, if you take all the vertices at from index I to n, right, if you take all the vertices here in the graph induced by these vertices, the integrity should be 0, right? It should not have any integrity, right? So this is again one more way of doing the same thing, right? This is probably what Alan said, maybe in a bit more efficient, right? Because insertion sort we know that it takes in square time, but this also I don't know how much it takes. This is one easy thing to do once we sort of see the property. Okay, is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, now let us look at what Anirudh and others were saying, right? So if you do the DFS and you order it according to their, sort of, once it finishes, you put in a list and you sort of reverse the list, right? So what does that mean? Are you ordering it according to finishing times?
Yes, sir.
So basically, we are we are arranging the set of vertices which are reachable from a particular vertex after it in the topological sort.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, what does that mean with respect to? So at least Anirudh was saying that once the vertex finishes, you put it in a list, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What will be the first vertex in the list? What will be the finishing time of it?
It'll be
as compared to other vertices.
It will be the smallest. It will be
the vertex that finishes first, right? So the first vertex in the list will be a vertex, some vertex, right? So some vi1 which finishes first. This will be the vertex which finishes after vi1, so on and so forth, right? So this will have finishing time less than this, right? So if you simply order it around finishing times, it will be less than, right? So if you want to get a topological sort, then how do you need to order? You said that it should be reverse of it, right?
Yes, sir.
So decreasing order.
Decreasing order.
So you said decreasing order of finishing times, right? What you are saying is do DFS, then to get finishing time, order it in the decreasing order of finishing time. So this is one more thing you guys came up with. Now why should this work? It looks like magical, right? Simply you are saying that yeah, you simply do this and it will always work. Why?
So so for every vertex we want to add it to the list before all of its say children are added to the list. So
okay.
We're actually doing the entire thing in reverse. We're adding a particular vertex after all of its children have been added to the list, and that's why we get the order in reverse. So
how are you sure that all its children and all its reachable vertices are added?
Because we are doing a DFS from that particular vertex. So a DFS from a particular vertex will reach all reachable nodes from there, right?
You are again using the reachability property.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you take some vertex, so what you are saying is, so if you start from some vertex, right, all vertices that are reachable from this vertex, right? So are you saying that their finishing times will be less than the finishing time of this?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Need not finishing time. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Because the explore function of the vertex will be written only after the explore function of all its reachable nodes.
Reachable vertices, right?
Yeah, reach.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that fine? Right? So what we sort of saw yesterday was this small thing, right? Suppose there was an edge UV, right? So suppose an edge UV was there, then what did we say about suppose discovery time of U is less than discovery time of U was discovered before V. Then what did we say about the finishing times? Right? U was discovered before V. What can we say about the finishing time?
Finishing time of U is greater than finishing time of V.
Finishing time of U will definitely be greater than finishing time of V. Is this true? Is this true? Right? So you would not finish before it would explore V, right? And finishing off all the neighbors, right? That is what we saw yesterday. That was the claim we had, right? This was the claim we proved yesterday, right? Suppose U was discovered before V, then you would definitely finish after V, right? Good. And using this, we also saw that any vertex which is reachable from U and discovered after U, right? It would sort of finish before U, right? So that was the lemma we proved, right? We proved that was basically the reachability property, right? So if U was a vertex which was discovered first and there are a lot of vertices which are reachable from U, right? Then the finishing time of U will be greater than the finishing time of any of those vertices which are reachable from U. Okay. So now this is true for an edge, right? An edge UV, right? Now here what we are doing is you are simply ordering it with respect to the decreasing order of finishing times, right? Now once you order it along the decreasing order of finishing times, why should all the edges go from left to right? Right? Is it always necessary? See, notice that here we add a precondition, right? So there was what was the precondition when we sort of proved this claim or lemma?
Is edge between U and V.
Yeah. Apart from that,
U was discovered first.
this was right. This was very important. If discovery of time of U was before V, only then this is true, right? U should be discovered first, right? Even when we were looking at the lemma, we said that let some V or X be the first vertex that was discovered in the whole graph, right? Then all the other vertex reachable from X will have will be descendants of that particular vertex, which means that they will have finishing time less than this. So which means that this should be discovered first, right? Only then this is true, right? But in general, the finishing time for every edge like this, the finishing time of U need not be greater than V, right? But is that true in the kind of graphs we are considering? So suppose, yeah, the question is, right, what we are saying is that suppose there was an edge UV like this and U was discovered before V, then the edge, and if the finishing time of U will be greater than V, right? So if you order it in this manner, still the edge goes from left to right, right? But if the other way around, if discovery time of V was greater than discovery time of U, right? Then also will the finishing time be lesser?
Vice versa, right?
So in that case, there can be a cycle in the graph.
We are already saying that discovery time of U is less than discovery time of V, right?
Yeah, discovery time of, suppose this is the case, we always know that if there is an edge UV, then the finishing time of U will definitely be greater than the finishing time of V. What if the discovery time of V is greater than the, discovery time of V is less than the discovery time, that was a typo. Discovery time of V was discovered before you, then?
It will be true if
so
there are no cycles.
There can be a cycle.
Sir, not necessary that like suppose that there is a vertex T before U and there is an edge between T and V, and we do DFS from T, then discovery time of V will be less than discovery time of U.
Yeah, right. That is possible, right? It is possible, but what about the finishing times? Suppose this is the case, can we say anything about the finishing time?
So since this graph is not a cycle, it's a cyclic. Finishing time of V will be it won't be after U. It will be less than U only.
So you are saying that if discovery time of V is less than D and G is a DAG, right? Then still finishing time of U will be greater than finishing time of V. Is this true? Is this what you are saying, Aditya?
Yes, sir. Because like otherwise, we would have gone to use DFS, and then you would have finished and then come out and then finished V. But like it's a cycle. So since already there's a UV edge, there won't be a path from V to U.
Why would that be a cycle?
Like there's already a UV edge. There's already a UV edge. So
there is a UV edge.
Now suppose there was a path from V to U.
Suppose there was a path from, but that is not what we are bothering, right? We are saying that can you finish after V, right? So, or is it the case that V finishes after U, right?
Yes, sir. Like,
so we can prove
saying, like suppose there was a path, then it would have finished before. Like contradiction we can take.
Okay. If suppose there was a path,
U
would have
finishes,
yeah.
If U finishes before V, then U is a descendant of V. But that is not possible because it is not a cyclic graph.
Okay. So you say if finishing time of U is less than finishing time of V, right? Since we already know that discovery time of U is greater than discovery time of V, right? U was discovered after V was discovered and it is finishing before V is finishing, then we know that U is a descendant of V, right? This is something we obtained yesterday, right? In the DFS tree, it would be a descendant. What does that mean? It would mean that there is a path, right, from V to U, right? There is a path from V to U, right? Then this path from V to U and the edge UV would give us a directed cycle, right? So which is a contradiction, right? That cannot happen because we have assumed that the graph is a directed acyclic graph, right? So what does this tell us about the relationship between two vertices which are connected by an edge in a DAG? So what this says is that if G is a DAG, for any edge UV belonging to the edge set of G, finishing time of U is always greater than finishing time of V, right? Irrespective of the case whether U was discovered before V or after V. Okay. So once the graph is a DAG and there is an edge UV, once there is an edge UV like this, the finishing time of U is always greater than the finishing time of V. Okay. So the proof is basically this. How do you prove this? This is the lemma, right? Or claim. How do you prove this? The proof is basically what we said here. There are two cases. U was discovered before V, then it is very easy. This is true for every graph, right? But if V was discovered before U, then since it's a DAG, right, U cannot finish before V. If it finishes before V, then there will exist a cycle like this, right? So it says that, so once the given graph is a directed acyclic graph and there exists an edge UV, right, in the graph, the directed edge UV, then the finishing time of U will always be greater than the finishing time of V, right? So is this fine? Is this property fine?
Sir, could you explain the second if part, if discovery of V is less than U?
Yeah. So suppose the discovery V was discovered before U, right? So is V and U confusing?
No, sir, it's fine.
That's fine. Okay. Okay. So V was discovered before U and the given graph is a DAG, right? Now we are claiming that finishing time of U is still greater than finishing time of V, right? Now how do you prove it? You can simply prove it by contradiction. Suppose not, right? The proof of the second part. By contradiction, suppose not. What does this imply? Finishing time of V is greater than finishing time of U, right? Suppose this is the case. Notice here that V was discovered before U, right? So discovery time of V is less than discovery time of U, right? So if you consider this vertex U, it was discovered after V, so and it is also finishing before V, right? So in that sense, it is in the subtree rooted at V, right? There was V somewhere here, it was discovered and so many other things were discovered, but before it finishes, right, U finishes, which means that U should be somewhere in the descendant, right, in the subtree rooted at V, right? It should be somewhere here, which means that there should exist a path from V to U, right? This implies that there exists a path which is a directed path from V to U. But this is a contradiction because suppose there exists a path from V to U, the path from V to U, right? If there is a path P, this path with the edge UV will form a directed cycle, right? That is a contradiction to the fact that the graph, given graph is a directed acyclic graph. So whatever we assumed should be wrong, right? We assumed that the V finishes after U, right? This is wrong, which proves the statement that the finishing time of U is greater than the finishing time of V. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So this is, see, notice that the first statement is true in any graph. The second statement is true, I mean the second case is true only when it is a DAG, right? So in that, both of these combine to sort of imply that once the given graph is a DAG and there is an edge xy, the finishing time of x will always be greater than the finishing time of y. Is that fine? Yes, Imanshu, you want to say something?
No, sir. Sorry, sir.
Fine. No issues. Okay. So is that fine? Is the property fine? Okay. This is again a very important property. We will definitely reuse it again later. Okay. So yeah, the proof is again pretty simple, right? You can simply use finishing times to do this. Okay. Okay, good. Now, does this lemma prove the algorithm?
Yes, sir, it does.
How?
So basically, like what we are doing is we are sorting it in decreasing order of finishing time. So basically, we have proved that whichever vertex has like degree less, like suppose like two vertices in one vertex, if the finishing time is more, then that vertex should come before the vertex which has finishing time less than that.
Yeah, that is what we are doing. Why does it give a topological ordering? Why do all edges go from left to right?
So we can assume by say contradiction that there exists an edge from the right to left.
Okay.
So that means since we have sorted by decreasing order finishing time, that would mean that there exists an edge with.
Suppose there exists an edge like this, right? Say X and Y, right? So what do we know with X?
We know that finishing time of Y is greater than finishing time of X by this lemma that we just proved.
So no, with respect to the ordering, we know that finishing time of X is greater than finishing time of Y, right? That is how we order. This contradicts the lemma, right? This contradicts the lemma because once there is an edge, Yx, the finishing time of Y should be greater than the finishing time of X. So which means that once we have ordered the vertices in the decreasing order of finishing times, right? Such an edge is never possible, right? All edges are going from left to right, something like this. Okay. So which means that which is the definition of topological sort. So once you take all the vertices in the decreasing order of their finishing times, you will always get the topological sort of the graph. Okay. So which means that the algorithm is indeed correct. Okay. Is that fine? Is it fine or any questions? Any confusion? Do you want me to go through anything again?
It was fine, sir. I think there are no doubts.
Okay. Yeah, you guys need to speak up, guys. So if you speak up only, then if you have any doubts, I can get it and we can go through it. Right? Good. So this sort of proves the correctness of the algorithm. The algorithm is correct, right? This sort of proves the correctness of the algorithm. Now, what can you say about the running time?
Again, it's linear.
Why?
DFS runtime.
You are sorting, right? Your sorting should take more time, right?
No, but we're just using a DFS and
linear time.
So instead of that, we can just append it to a stack, no? We can just push the vertex on the stack.
Oh, once the vertex finishes, you can push it to the stack.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then we can pop it out and then it will give us the correct order.
That is a nice thing, right? That is important, right? You can push it to a stack or you can push it to a list, right? From the you can add it at one point, right? So that is the thing. Or you can always use the stack, right? So this is something that is very important, right? Notice that once you simply do like this, and if you are trying to sort of sort these vertices in decreasing order, right, you might use some radix sort or count sort or something like that. Maybe you can still do in linear time, but otherwise it might take n log n time, right? But if you efficiently use the data structures you have, right? So you already know about the stack data structure. If you could use that stack data structure, you can easily reduce it to linear time. So this is why data structures are important, right? Once you come up with a algorithm, you can always use these data structures to sort of improve the efficiency. So in that sense, this course is also about how do we use these data structures, right? All the data structures we have studied, how do we use it to sort of improve the efficiency of the algorithm, right? So the better the data structures you use, the better would be the running time, right? Later when we see other algorithms, you will see that many things depend on the kind of data structures you use. So the use of data structure is sort of intimately coupled with the algorithm design, right? So if you want better algorithms, you need to use smart data structures. Okay, so that is something which we will always be doing in the course again. Okay, good. This is again a very simple example, one nice example as to how data structures help us to improve the efficiency. Okay, basically the running time. Good. That also sort of says about the efficiency. So you can use a stack and you can still do it in linear time, order of m plus n. Okay. Good. Nice. So that's okay. That's it about the topological sort. Now just yeah, to sort of find out, just to not stop it here. So in any directed acyclic graph, right, or in any network, right, which we think about, it can be any whatever sort of electrical network or a communication network or something. A vertex with integer 0, right, it is always called the source, right? We call it as a source. This is vertex with or node with integer 0. Integer 0. It is always called a source. Okay. Then we also use the word called sink. This is a vertex with out degree 0. Vertex with out degree 0. Everything sinks, all the information sinks into it. Okay. So these are special vertices. Okay. One is a vertex with integer 0, which is called a source, and another with out degree 0, which is called a sink. Now, is it true that DAG always has a source?
Yes, sir.
Right. So
yes.
A DAG should always have a source, right? Does it always have a sink?
Yes.
Yes,
sir. The questions are equivalent actually in a way, right? If you just reverse the direction of the arcs, a source will become the sink and things like that. Okay, good. Now, what can you say about the finishing time of a source compared to other vertices in the graph?
It is greater than all the others.
So the finishing time of a source will be greater than the finishing time of all other vertices?
It'll be like at least greater than everything other than other sources.
Exactly, right? So that is important. It is not necessary that the source is unique. There can be multiple sources, right? Just because some vertex is a source doesn't mean that it will have finishing time greater than everything, or it will have maximum finishing time, right? But can you say something about the vertex with maximum finishing time in a DAG? Will it always be a source?
Yes. Yes.
Right? That is the other direction is anyway true always, right? So in a DAG, a vertex with maximum finishing time is a source, right? This is anyway true, right? It's always a source. So this is a very nice property. I would like you guys to remember this. This is a very nice property to know, or it's a claim. We can even prove it, right? So the vertex with maximum finishing time is always a source, right? So is the vertex with say minimum finishing time, is it a sink?
No.
No. It depends
No?
on how you start the DSS.
There could be two sources in this. That's it. That's the only graph.
There can be more.
Why can there be a vertex with minimum finishing time which is not a sink?
It could be a source.
A graph with only sources.
Two vertices and that's it.
No,
that's
graph with only sources. Anyway, every vertex is both the source and sink, right?
The minimum is a sink, because if it wasn't a sink,
there can be more than
we would
one
have
sink.
continued exploring it, right?
We would have continued exploring it.
So it would not have. It would not be finished, right?
Oh, is it? So can we always? Can we also say that again? So in a DAG.
So can there be multiple sinks?
Yeah, there can be multiple sink. I am only worried about the vertex with minimum finishing time. With minimum finishing time. Is a sink. This is what you are saying. Is this true? Is the vertex with minimum finishing time a sink?
Yes, unless the graph is trivial.
If the graph is trivial, it's still
trivial, then no, or else
it's still a sink, right?
Yeah, it's still a sink. In a trivial, what do you mean by trivial? The graph is an independent set, is it?
Yes, like yeah.
Yeah, edgeless graph. Even then, every vertex is source and a sink there. So that doesn't. It's the definition of sink is out degree 0. It still has out degree 0. It is a sink.
But this statement is correct.
This statement is correct, is it? Okay, why?
Suppose we can prove by contradiction, like if the vertex with minimum finishing time is not the sink, then there should be some vertex from which can be reachable from sink, like the current vertex. But if that's the case, then that vertex will have finishing time less than the current vertex, but current vertex is the minimum finishing time, so we reach to a contradiction. So it has to be a sink.
Before this vertex finished, we would have reached to that particular vertex, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is that. It seems to be true, right? This looks true, right? In a DAG. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Think about it. Think about DAGs and think about this starting time, finishing time in directed graphs. So in the next class, we will again try to look at a few more examples, right, about directed graphs and try to see if we can use these structures to sort of work out apply the DFS and even the BFS we have seen to different problems we see. Okay, so we will end the class here. Yeah, just before going, suppose the directed acyclic graph has, say, something like k sources and L sinks. What will be the maximum number of edges possible? Okay, think about it. What will be the maximum number of edges possible, right? If the graph has k sources and L sinks. Okay, so think about it. Okay, and yeah.
Sir, every source, like
LK.
Sir, every source will have a sink, right?
No, the graph has n vertices. Assume that the graph has n vertices and k and L are not related to n. It has k sources and L sinks.
But
okay.
Sir, like if we have k sources, then every source will have at least one sink, right?
I mean, the sink can be same also.
What do you mean?
Can be same also for L sources.
L will be less than equal to k, right, sir? Like L cannot be greater than.
Why? Why?
One source can have more than one sink also.
Yeah.
One sink can have multiple.
At least
one source can have multiple sinks also.
edges.
But only one sink, right? The other way is also possible. There is only one source but multiple sink, right? There is no relationship between k and L, right? They are incomparable. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, guys.
At least KL.
Think about it. I want maximum. How much will it be? In terms of n and k and L. Okay. So think about it. That's a nice thing to see. Okay. You will also see these graphs in your maybe operating system course or architecture course. If you see dependency graphs, okay. So that time these things would be useful if you know more about DAX. Okay. Okay. Okay, guys. So that's it for today. So we will meet again on Tuesday. Okay. Okay then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.